Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Well, we've covered a lot of the builder to engineering aspects of what to look for in a home, both if you're buying a used home and if you're having a new home built. But we're actually working backwards, because this shows we're going to talk about this process. Landon draws a home up and he sends it in to Aaron and Franklin, what the process is and some of the obstacles you have to overcome. Because, you know, we were just talking, so Landon draws out this home drawing on a legal pad or drawing paper or napkin and sends it in, says, hey, I've got a customer that wants to build this house, but you don't know the engineering part of it.
There's just a lot more to it. We've talked about down here, it's totally different building down here than anywhere else. So yeah, you can have a 2D drawing or even a 3D, a draftsman can draw you up whatever they want. But at the end of the day, Aaron and Franklin decides how this thing gets built. And as far as the engineering aspect goes, and we talk about all the time, we can change all the stuff inside the house, but the outside of the house is their baby. And that's why we team up with a company like them that really has their hands on exactly what's going on, the pulse of what's going on within the engineering system. So I'll let Chandra kind of talk to us about, once you get that blueprint, what it kind of looks like until we get it back from you guys, that kind of determine what we're building.
Yeah, the very first thing we do is we look at where that house is located. So that's going to be how close it is to the water. So that'll determine exposure category. We look at the wind speed requirement, and it varies just a little bit down the peninsula, not very much, usually between 148 and 152 miles an hour. We look at the flood zone and what the grade elevation is. Those two things make a huge impact because really on the piling system, the water is the biggest controlling factor. Then the wind is the next one, and so depending on how tall your walls are, if it's 1-story, 2-story, gable roof versus hip roof, that'll extend how high up it is, how much wind you're catching, and how much is going into the pile system as well. So those things are kind of the main things we look at as far as the initial. And then we have to look at the shear walls. Like, you have all these walls, well, how many windows and doors do you have in them? How many usable segments do we actually have? Do we have to put something on the interior to take some of that load because the front wall can't take it or the back wall can't take it? And then we have to figure out, how do we connect it all together? Sometimes people want to cantilever those pile systems out and not have it flush with the edge of the pile. I don't like that. I'd like everything to be flush. Some people want to cantilever it out. It makes it really hard to connect the floor to the pile and stringer system. So we can do it. It's not what we typically prefer.
When you say cantilever, that's putting a brace out
No,
like this?
no, it's just where the floor system goes out like maybe a foot or so past the piling. So that it's not
so
flush.
Your weight load is actually not
farther
underneath.
out. Yeah, you've got to figure out a way to get that load from the edge of the wall, that's, you know, the roof and ceiling and floor system, and pull it back.
And not only that, but then get it tied back down, and that's
and their hold downs and stuff. It's just
exactly.
tough. I mean,
you've got all these rods sticking through and everything else, and trying to get that thing to really secure itself back down. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the whole idea is to connect this house from top all the way down to the piling.
Continuous load path.
And so, if you're sticking out, it really doesn't allow you to do that very well.
Yeah, you can strap it into the floor system, and then you've got to figure out a way to get it from that floor system back and strap down to the piles and stringer system. So it just makes it a little bit more challenging. It's doable. Where it gets real challenging is if you have something like that and you have to install, say, like a shear wall panel, where you have it's cantilevered out and you have a beam that you've got to install to, and it just becomes really complicated. So yeah, we look at all those things, and then we try to figure out what is the most economical way for y'all to build it. So it's like, is it cheaper to put in an interior shear wall? Is it so open that we have nothing to work with? We have to use a shear wall panel on the perimeter wall. So we try to look at what is the most economical way. I know you guys hate doing double sheathing on walls because it messes up all your finish work and everything.
But at the end of the day down here, you can dress it out with trim. But it's one of those things of, you have to have the bones, right?
That's right.
And you have to make sure that it's built correctly and durable enough and strong enough to be able to maintain, when that storm comes through. Because, Ike was a perfect example of things being, I'm going to say, under-engineered or not engineered, and people just kind of doing it how they wanted to, and we see that. I tell people now, like, if a storm came through like it did now, the way that these houses are being engineered now, I feel very comfortable
sleep real
that
fine.
that it's built correctly.
Yeah.
Now I can't speak to, you said 2020 earlier whenever the code had kind of changed. I would say that even in the last 2 to 3 years, things have continued to get stronger
Right.
as far as the engineering goes.
And
It's more
the
straps
flood.
and clips.
That's the flood. So
Yeah.
they came out with what they call Flood 2.0. So it was a flood rating system, and so they changed a lot of the in Bolivar. They changed a lot of the flood zones.
Okay.
And so they've some people that were at a 16 are now at a 17. Some people that were at a 14 on the base side are now at a 15. So it just raised everything up just a little bit more, and that just puts extra water load on the piles that we have to account for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually this morning Dan Priest pulled up.
Yeah.
And we were talking about if a storm hit, and I don't know how we got on it, if a storm hit now versus same storm Ike hit now versus the damage we had back in 2008 versus now. He said, David, other than some stairs and some garages,
Yeah.
man, these houses are built now. And insurance, we were talking from the insurance standpoint, they look at a house that was built back then versus now, and the insurance has dropped down, and how high they are. And so we lost about 3/4 of the homes during Ike, and he said, David, I don't think we'd lose maybe 25% if
The only thing that concerns me about a big storm is just the maintenance. A lot of people, this is a heavy rental market. Not everybody is down here to do the maintenance that needs to be done. These are in a highly corrosive environment. You've got to keep your hold downs, you've got to check for corrosion. You've got to look and make sure that, that everything is still
Hunky-dory.
good. Yeah. And, especially liability wise, making sure your handrails are secured and all that too, because again, a rental market, you don't want any issues with handrails, stairs, any of those things. People laugh at me and I say, I don't walk upstairs unless I walk underneath it first, because I don't know how these guys have built it or if they've maintained it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny.
No, it's not, because it's one of those deals of the maintenance down here gets neglected because either you're living here and you don't really think about it, or you're not from this area and realize how harsh the elements are on things. We try to use stainless anywhere we can use stainless, but stainless isn't a very strong material. So sometimes you got to go back to galvanized, and galvanized is good, but it's not bulletproof, right?
And even stainless, I mean,
it's going to rust.
It's still going to rust.
I think down
you
here,
just have a longer
period of time.
I think plastic rusts down
It does.
here.
It does. PVC will rust.
Landon, you were talking about doing maintenance. When people call you out because this is happening or this is happening, how many of those repairs are having to be done because they didn't do maintenance on a home? Is it quite a bit?
Probably 100%.
Is it? If they would do maintenance a little more.
It's one of those deals of maintenance is, in everywhere, really. Let's just call it a spade. It just gets magnified down here because of the elements. Like, somebody's deck's, messed up. Well, when's the last time they put a sealer on the deck?
Right.
The deck boards, the nails are popping up. Well, when's the last time they went back and put nails back in it? Or were those nails, galvanized nails instead of stainless nails? And, you've got painting issues where you see these little rust spots everywhere. Well, it was shot with a galvanized nail instead of a stainless nail. The stainless, there's a reason why that happens, and it goes back to the build process, and we'll get in that in another day. But a box of stainless nails are about 3 times the price of what a box of a galvanized nails cost. Okay. So there's your answer as to why it's done that way.
And I'll
just leave it at that.
I had a buddy that had built a house after Ike, and after some years they were getting ready to sell it, but the guy used galvanized nails, and he had to go back on every one and either pull it out or fix it, because it was bleeding through the white paint. And so it may cost a little bit more then, but how much time will it save you in the long run? Instead of just going through and putting a new coat of paint on it, you have to do a bunch of pre-work to it.
Landon's not probably getting the callbacks after he turns
we
his house
use
over.
stainless stuff. So, we use stainless everywhere we can use stainless. All the siding, decks, anything that's exposed that we can put stainless nails in, we do. just for that purpose there. I mean,
So you don't have to worry about
it's
bleeding
just-
or anything.
spend the money up front. I mean,
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be calling him.
no, well, I mean, it's just like the roof sheathing we talked about on the first episode. We go above and beyond, and you don't do the minimal. Like
Yeah.
we've never done the minimal. I'm not going to start doing the minimal. If we got to do the minimal, then we'll figure out something else to do, right? It's teaming up with Aaron and Franklin on our engineering stuff. Like I'm sure I could go find someone who's cheaper, but they're probably not going to require us to do what they're requiring us to do, which does cost more money. But in the long run,
right.
I know it's done correctly, and I know that it's engineered by somebody who's going to be around, who's been around, and who's going to continue to be around in the coming years. I don't have to chase those people back down because there's a bunch of those guys who've come through.
Plus, we care whether this community is here or not.
Absolutely.
We care about this community.
But there's a lot of guys that'll come in here and do their thing for a couple years, and they're gone. And who are you going to call in 5 years?
Well, and I've always, when Dave and I first started doing these 2 years ago, I said, Aaron and Franklin helped rebuild after Ike because they were and still are, from my understanding, is the primary engineering firm down here. And it's not just they know the coastal area. Bolivar.
Right.
Yeah. You know Galveston County, Bolivar, the subdivisions.
We know how things perform here, you know.
And Bolivar's different. Just like you said, it's altogether different down here, not just on building, but the environment, because we're literally surrounded by salt water,
Right.
So, well, there's show three of our 3, 4, 5-part series. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank Shonda for coming over from the mainland, making a trip across the bay to do these shows with us. And for more information on Landon, Prestige Custom Builders, or Aaron and Franklin, make sure you go to our website. We've got all the information there, their contact information, their websites, where you can get more information on everyone. So we're going to head on out. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye. Video equipment is sponsored by Crystal Beach Decor and More, located at 1959 Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas, and Beachy Beatnik Boutique and Jewelry, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas. Thank you to these two businesses for being our 2025 video equipment sponsor for Bolivar Live.